She removed her cape with a dramatic flourish, sending it swirling in an arc around her that nearly toppled the sign on one of the display tables. She was wearing a blood-red skirt, which flowed around her ankles, with a purple tunic over it and a necklace of large mustard-yellow beads that looked hand-carved. Penelope took the cape from her and hung it on the coat stand near the front door. Odile had brought an almost palpable sense of excitement into the store with her, as well as a whiff of cold air. It was mid-October, and the Michaelmas term was underway at the Oakwood School. The leaves on the trees were turning, and the residents of Chum, as the town was affectionately known, were digging out their cozy sweaters and boiled wool jackets. Odile swept over to Penelope and greeted her with an air kiss on each cheek. "Have you read my manuscript yet?" she said. An armload of silver bracelets jingled as she straightened one of her books on the display table. "I'm hoping to send it off to a publisher soon." Not content to just publish a book on painting, Odile had taken up fiction as well, and had penned a 400-page contemporary romance. Penelope silently groaned. She'd been meaning to get to it, and had actually read a few pages, but it was such a slog that she'd given up, and had spent the time wondering how she could persuade Odile to stick to painting instead. The door opened again, sending a chilly breeze through the shop that ruffled the pages of the flyers sitting out on the front counter. A young man stuck his head into the store. Odile glided over to him, her long, fluid skirt swishing about her legs. "I've got the gear," the young man said. "Where do you want it?" Penelope hastened to join them. She glanced out the window and saw a large van with the Oakwood School crest on the side, double-parked in front of the open book. "There's another entrance behind the shop," she said, and directed the young man to an alley that ran alongside the open book and led to a back door that opened into the storage room. "Cheers!" The young man gave a sketchy salute, turned around, and hopped into the driver's seat of the van, just as the driver of the car behind him began to lean on his horn. "That's Grady Evans," Odile said, as the van pulled away. "He takes care of the grounds at the school and does odd jobs for Rodney Simpson, who is in charge of maintenance. I asked him to cart my supplies over here for me." The door opened again, and a gentleman walked in. He had thick gray hair brushed back from his forehead in a wave, and round tortoise-shell glasses. He was wearing a tweed coat with a velvet collar and leather gloves, which he pulled off as he walked toward Odile and Penelope. Odile smiled and put her hand on the man's arm. "Penelope, this is Quentin Barnes, my significant other, as the young people say." She smiled up at Quentin. "He teaches history at the Oakwood School." She turned to Quentin. "Quentin, this is Penelope Parish. This event was her brilliant idea." Pen crossed her fingers. She hoped her idea would turn out to be brilliant. "Will you be doing a painting?" Penelope said to Quentin. "Heavens, no. I'm just here for moral support and to say goodbye." He gave Odile a peck on the cheek and glanced at his watch. "Unfortunately, I can't stay long. I have a conference in Bristol that starts early tomorrow morning, so I'm heading out tonight." He turned to Odile. "I'll be at the Bristol Harbour Hotel, if you need to reach me." "Well, I hope you can stay for a bit. I've got some of that wine you fancy." Odile took his arm and led him over to the display table where her books were piled up, waiting to be signed. A few minutes later, Pen heard Grady knock on the back door and ran to open it. Grady sidled through the door with several easels tucked under his arms. He was tall and sinewy, with dark brown hair long enough to flop onto his forehead. He was wearing faded and worn jeans, a plaid flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and work boots. Penelope could see goosebumps on his arms. "You must be freezing without a coat," she said. Grady shrugged. "I left my jacket in the van. I'm okay." He nodded at the easels he was holding. "Where do you want these?" "We've cleared a space at the front of the store," Penelope said. "Righto." Penelope led him toward the area where she and Mabel had decided to hold the event. They'd shoved some display tables out of the way to create a large enough space for the painting party. "Why don't you lean them against that table over there?" Odile pointed to a spot. "You can help me set them up after you bring everything in." Grady nodded. "I'll go get the rest of the gear." He loped off through the store toward the back entrance. Moments later, he came back with a handcart piled with cardboard boxes. "Let's have those over there," Odile said.